Hello everyone and welcome back to Whimsy Creek Art. Today is Tuesday, so we are going to have a tips and tricks video. I have posted a schedule across the top of my YouTube channel. So on the banner, the channel art, it now has a schedule. I will be posting on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, a video on each of those days of my mystery pours. Then on Tuesdays will be a speaking video with some tips and tricks and kind of basics of paint pouring. And then on Thursdays at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, I will be doing my regular live stream, about an hour to an hour and a half long each time. For today's tips and trick video, I would like to talk about the top 10 surfaces I like to pour on and how I prepare them, or somewhat kind of lack of prepare them. Most surfaces I do not do too much preparation to before I do the paint pouring on. I feel that the choices in paint I use, now mostly about 80 to 90% of my paint pours have this cheap brand acrylic colors paint in it. This paint in particular is very plasticky when dry. It has a very more latex feel, and I believe it really adheres to surfaces really well. So I have not had really a problem with coverage or not adhering to any surfaces with this brand of paint. That's why I choose this one, because it's very multi-purpose and can go on many different surfaces. So for my number one surface I like to pour on is, of course, canvases. I get my canvases at most of my canvases at Michael's Crafts. And the canvases at Michael's come pre-gessoed. That's already kind of a gesso. For those that aren't in the art world, there's kind of a primer almost. It's something for the paint to stick to on the canvas. And the Michael's canvases come pre-gessoed. So there's not much I have to do there. There's no preparation for a canvas. And then I do like to pour on tiles. And so for tiles, I get mine at Habitat for Humanity Restore. And so they're recycled. The contractors in the area have donated them. And they're very, very cheap. And, it's saving the environment buying something at the Restore instead of going to a local hardware store and buying brand new tiles. So for what I do for the tiles, now these are just regular old ceramic tiles that you would get. I take an alcohol pad and I just clean this with alcohol, get some of the muck off that might be there, and so it's then a real nice and clean surface to pour on. So that's the only preparation that I do with the tiles, is real quick with an alcohol wipe. And then the next surface that I like to pour on is wood. So for wood items, I really don't do much preparation to them. I pretty much just pour onto the surface. I do not prime or gesso the surface of a wood item. The only thing I do is I take a little, maybe a medium grit to fine grit sandpaper in the 80 to 100 range. I just will sand the edges a little bit and kind of sand any little bits that are sticking up, because once you have poured on it, the moisture in the paint is going to bring that out and really make it noticeable. And so sometimes to get in the nook and crannies, I do have just a nail file, and I kind of will just sand the sides of it with a nail file. But that's about all I do to prepare a wood surface. Some of the things that I have poured on that are wood surfaces is like this little box here, which is very neat. It ended up, I did not do that on purpose, but it ended up almost with a crane, a bird on the top. But this is one of the wood items that I've poured on. This is like a cigar shaped box here. And that's a wood item that I poured on. And then there is a video on this. When I did this, I did a video on it. But here's how it turned out. See if I can get it all the way in the camera. And this is just a small tabletop size dresser to organize. You can put little doodads or put little jewelry in, use it as a jewelry box. There's the top there. And that was just raw wood that then I poured on. And this one. Just after a quick sanding it and making sure all the imperfections are sanded down, then that was ready to pour on. Then one of the other items that I pour on quite often is I do pour on these light switch covers. And so the light switch covers come very slick, plasticky. So to prepare this surface, I take my medium to fine grit, pretty fine grit for this, sandpaper, and I just kind of rough the surface up a little. If you do not rough the surface up, your paint can just slide right off because it's such a slick surface. So just roughing it up with a little sandpaper, and then make sure you wipe any dust off that you might have. Then you're ready to go to pour on a light switch cover. Then one of the other items I like to pour on is terracotta pots. So I just get regular old terracotta pots and I pour on these. I do not pour on these to put a plant in, or I don't think put outside really with anything in it. But I do make other decorative items with the terracotta pots once I have poured on them. Right after this, I'll insert a picture of the candy jars that I make with a terracotta pot. I take a terracotta pot and the base, and then I turn this upside down. This is the lid to the candy jar. And I get a glass globe from the Dollar Tree. I'll insert a picture, and I also have a video on that process. But I just take the stickers off, and then I do put, you'll have this hole now, and all I do is I put a piece of tape on the inside, just covering the hole. That's it. No primer, nothing really there. And then another surface that I really like to pour on is records, just old vinyl records. And I do not gesso, prime, anything these. There's no preparation for a record to get it ready. I just put a piece of tape here on the hole so the paint doesn't, go all streaming through when you pour on it. And then I do remove the tape when I'm all done, and I make this into a clock. I'll put a clock mechanism in the middle and make the old records into clocks. And I don't really do anything with the label. I leave the label on. Now I did learn the hard way that do not use a label with red. For some reason, red labels, the red dye, comes through on your paint no matter how many times, excuse me, no matter how many times you try to cover that label with paint or gesso, the red coloring will come through. So I just try to avoid records with a red label. Another surface that I really like to pour on is MDF. You can find it at a lot of the craft stores, and this is actually even from the Dollar Tree. You can find a lot of shapes cut out in this MDF, this kind of press wood type stuff, and that's great to pour on as well. And there's really no preparation for this. There's no need to put any primer or gesso on it. The paint will adhere right to the surface. Most MDF comes pretty smooth, but every once in a while you will find a little imperfection that needs to be sanded down. But usually I don't have to do actually anything to the MDF products. And then another thing that I like to pour on is like paper mache boxes, paper mache stuff. So the craft stores will have these decorative boxes, or you can pour on like the lids of them and stuff. I have a couple videos of that. Or at Christmas time, I got these. They're just paper mache from Michael's ornaments, and I poured on these. Nothing really, no preparation for this surface. I just pour right onto it. I don't need to put any gesso or primer. And so paper mache boxes, paper mache shapes, they're another great item to pour on. And then again, I do want to mention once again that the reason that I can pour on all these items without really doing a preparation of the surface and gessoing or primering it is because I do mainly use this brand of paint, and this brand of paint is a really great like multi-surface paint that adheres to most surfaces. Another item I like to pour on is ceramic or bisque, like unfired ceramics, or like plaster figurines, plaster items you would find at different craft stores. You can pour on those as well. For instance, I find these paint yourself banks, these little bisque banks here. It's just like this, and these are found at the Dollar Tree in the crafting or the toy aisle. They have several different shapes of animals and a little car and different things, and you can pour right on this. No need to do anything to the surface here. Now, because it is a 3D object, one little pointer I do with 3D objects is I get my paint just a little bit thicker, and so it will stick to the surface without just sliding all the way down. So with a 3D object, I just have a little bit, just a tad bit thicker of paint. But like these little figurines that you'll find at the craft stores, they're just little plastic figurines. You can pour on those. Lots of different surfaces you can pour onto. And then the other one of the surfaces I like to pour onto is just rocks. Regular old rocks you find anywhere. You can pour onto the rocks, and they make great little gifts or little items, or we leave them around town for other people to find. It's a fun little project. So that, my friends, is the top 10 surfaces to paint pour with fluid acrylics. I have one bonus surface that I would like to talk about. So not to waste any of the paint, I like to pour out just the last little bits that are left in the cup. And this here is just a Dollar Tree flexible cutting mat that you get at the Dollar Tree, and you get 2 of them for $1. You can pour after you've done your paint pour on your other surfaces. If you have anything left in your cup, not to waste it, you can pour it onto this, let it dry for a few days, and then because this is flexible, it just peels right off. Now these are called skins. In the paint pouring world or whatever, they call them skins. You can take these then, if you have something with a nice design or something, you can take it and you can make jewelry. You can cut out different shapes and put it onto other surfaces to put, different shapes of a different color onto something already you've poured onto, and just embellish it with those. So there's lots of things you can do with these skins. So that's kind of my bonus surface I like to pour on, is these Dollar Tree cutting mats. All right, everybody, I hope you enjoyed hearing about just the top 10 surfaces I like to paint pour on. Now, keep in mind, this is just the top 10 surfaces. You can paint pour on pretty much anything. Just let me know if you have any questions, and I look forward to the next video on our Tips and Tricks Tuesday. And make sure to come on the other days for Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, our mystery pours. Thursdays is our live stream, and an occasional video posted throughout the week if I happen to find something else that I would like to, another paint pour I'd like to show you here and there, occasionally will also be posted. All right, thanks for joining me, and you guys have a fantastic day.